Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our natural living workshop. We are so thrilled to have Lily coming in person today in our community room, along with some of our participants. And thank you for those who have joined us on Zoom. Today, Lily's going to be talking about herbs for cancer recovery. So Lily, I am going to spotlight you so everybody gets to see you. And then when you do your screen share, they'll be able to see that as well. So thank you, Lily, and welcome everyone.
Okay, so Darlene's going to be on the Zoom the whole time. So if anyone has any questions and they want to type them in the chat, Darlene can let me know so I just don't keep going. And I encourage questions at any point because the whole point of this course, these workshops, is to give people resources and answer their questions. And so, yeah, we're ending the year this year with how to survive cancer holistically. And there's a lot of components, including herbs, and I'm trained as an herbalist. So I tend to go that way first when we're looking at supplementation, but we're going to talk about different lifestyle changes, different dietary changes, things that support you in recovering from cancer and from chemotherapy and radiation. So there's a lot that goes into being well, being healthy, being vital. And you can see, like, here's just a little diagram of all the different components that come in to make you a healthy, happy person. So we'll be talking about several of those things. Ooh, this is new to me, not my computer, not my mouse. Okay. So first I want to talk a little bit about diet because, hi, yeah, come on in. I want to talk a little bit about diet because it is literally the foundation of everything. It is how we rebuild healthy cells that have died, either through, natural causes. We're constantly, having cells die and then regenerate them. But, cancer and cancer treatment often destroys a lot of cells. And so we need to rebuild and strengthen the existing cells that are weak. And we cannot discount comfort and pleasure. I'm not one of those people that's going to tell you like certain foods that you love are off limits, because there is definite value in comfort and pleasure, especially when you've been through the ringer. And help you sustain your functioning. As you're getting better, your body's working very, very hard to rebuild itself. So doing even regular tasks can be quite exhausting. It can be very frustrating to folks when they think, okay, I'm in remission and I'm done with my treatment. Why am I still so tired all the time? Yes. Well, you're tired because you're getting better, right? Your body has to rebuild itself. And so sustaining your functioning while you are rebuilding your body, it's almost like women who are pregnant, right? They're building a whole nother person and another organ inside their body while they're doing everything they always did. So helping to rebuild your body is like that. You need extra nutrition, not necessarily extra calories, although you could, but especially if you've lost weight, but extra nutrition. And so looking at sensible diets is a way to make sure that what you're taking in is actually helping you with that task. Everything in moderation, including moderation. Have some fun sometimes. But accept things that are specifically prohibited for you by your doctor, by your allergies. Everything in moderation is the best thing. Some of these fad diets out there really just do not sustain you nutritionally, and everything needs to be balanced. I am a huge fan of the Mediterranean food pyramid. And the thing that is different about this model compared to like the food pyramid that we see in the United States is that you've got fruits, vegetables, and grains forming the whole bottom. And that is every day. But if you look higher up, it's like once a week, twice a week, a few times. Meats and sweets are lumped together, right? Red meat and sweet things with refined sugar, they're all up there together in moderation at the top, which is less often than anything else. Poultry, eggs, chicken, dairy, fish and seafood, those are things that you would alternate every week to get your proteins, and that includes other sources of protein too. It encourages you to drink water. It even encourages you to drink wine, if that's something that you're into. And if you look at the very bottom, it says, olive oil, beans, nuts, legumes, seeds, herbs, and spices. You can do those every day, and those add lots and lots of flavor. Healthy food does not have to be boring. It can be very flavorful. So really looking at something like this and, talking to a nutritionist, getting daily physical activity is also something that's recommended, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But your body, it needs vitamins and minerals, it needs carbohydrates. All of these carbohydrate restricting diets are not healthy in the long term. Your body uses carbohydrates as its daily fuel, right? It needs amino acids to make proteins. So giving your body what it needs and feeling good about that is important.
We had a request if we could make the screen, the slides larger.
Okay, how do I do that?
That's and so that my answer was, I'll try.
Sure.
I think if we
Oh, there we go.
do
Look at
that.
you.
And then if you would like, because of, you need to see your screen, we can do that, and then everybody disappears,
Oh,
but you'll see them up here on the wall.
okay, cool.
So-
And if you could just monitor if anyone has a
Yep,
question, that would be great.
Absolutely. Oh,
Is that better?
I do see somebody in the chat, and I will get to your chat here in just a second.
We're right there. Okay. All right, so lifestyle, having daily activity, moderate daily activity. Now, when you're recovering from cancer, it's probably going to be less than what you could do before. It's probably going to feel like you're barely doing anything. And I highly encourage all of you to sort of silence that inner critic. Be motivated to do a little bit more each day, but some days, you're not going to be able to do that, and that is okay. But keep it moderate but challenging. And there is a movement for everybody. I am a partially disabled person, and there are certain types of exercise that are great for other people that I just can't do. Yoga being one of them, right? My physical injuries don't allow me to, hold a specific position and stay there. Like, it's very bad for my body, but I can do movement activities like Tai Chi or Qigong. And finding that special thing that you can do is what I would encourage you to do. Sometimes it doesn't have to be like an activity just for activity's sake. It can be things like taking a nice long walk in the woods. It can be gardening. It can be all kinds of things around the house. Just moderate daily activity. And I highly encourage all of you to get outside when you do some of these activities. Your mind body is integrated. They are part of the same wellness for you, and getting outside helps with depression and anxiety. It'll get you what vitamin D is available in Ohio winters, which isn't much. So definitely try and get outside. Doing the things that you love, making space for that instead of always taking care of other people and kind of sacrificing yourself. Making time to do the things that you love and bring you joy is going to help you recover faster, right? And being with people that love and support you is going to help you heal faster. If someone that you have in your life is just a constant source of stress and worry or angst, maybe not see them for a while you're healing. Maybe just a phone call. Who knows? But avoiding additional stress into your life, maybe adding therapy, psychotherapy. That can really help when you're processing everything that has happened to you and what is currently happening to you. Just some simple lifestyle changes that are affirming to yourself are going to go a long way to help you heal faster. So I mentioned before the mind-body connection. There are things that you can do to help you be present and grateful and really strengthen that mind-body connection, which helps with overall wellness. I will give you a link at the end in this slideshow for some meditation. The kind of meditation that I find easiest to start with is a style called Vipassana. And, you know, a lot of people think, oh, you know, I just can't sit there and not think about anything. That's too hard. My mind keeps generating thoughts. And, you know, that's what we're trained to do. Vipassana doesn't tell you that that's the wrong way to do it. It says, oh, I'm sitting here and I just had a thought. There it is. I recognize you. I'm going to push you away. And that's it. Judgment. There's no, you're doing it wrong. It just really helps. And soon, like, you're able to sustain more and more moments of just being present with your body and yourself. And some of the time when I have not been well in my body, I've discovered it through meditation, because you're sitting in stillness and you're just checking in and you're like, you know what, my hip hurts. Like, I didn't notice that before. I'm like moving around, I'm doing my things, but my hip hurts. I wonder what's wrong, you know? Being able to just be present with yourself and your breath and your body is invaluable, especially when you're healing. Shinrin Yoku, since we're not all together in the room, I don't know if anyone knows what that is. No? The Japanese call it forest bathing.
Oh, yeah.
And that is going out and being in nature and just spending time. There's no agenda. You can just sit there. Studies show that when you are surrounded by trees and not like human hustle bustle, no cars, buildings, people walking around, if you can be in solitude in nature and you can see birds, studies show that the more birds you see, the happier you are. It's very interesting. So Shinrin Yoku is something that doctors prescribe in Japan. Just go out to the forest and hang out. It doesn't have to be a forest. I also really love, when I lived in California, I used to go to the ocean. I would sit at the ocean by myself and just watch the ocean. And it was so calming. It calmed me more than anything else. You know, and I mentioned some of the other movement modalities, yoga, that's supposed to say Tai Chi, not Yai Chi, and Qigong. These are movement modalities that also bring you to mindfulness. So they're exercise and they're also mindfulness activities. And they do different things. So yoga is from the Ayurvedic tradition, and Ayurveda is a system of medicine that's one of the oldest, might actually be older than Chinese medicine, and at least in terms of documentation. And yoga is the thing that they do to strengthen their bodies and their mind and their body-mind connection. They also have specific diets, they have specific herbs, they have cleansing activities that they do as a regular thing. Chinese medicine is very similar. It's holistic in nature, and they have several different modalities, Qigong and Tai Chi for movement. They have different diets that they recommend for individuals and supplements. They also have other types of medicine, like acupuncture in Chinese medicine. But there are other mindfulness activities that pretty much anyone can do, even if you can't find a Qigong class, right? So journaling is really helpful, listening to music, doing art or creative writing, learning some breathing exercises that help slow down your cardiovascular system, and prayer. Prayer is also one of those mindfulness activities that can help speed recovery, regardless of what kind of prayer. Do we have any questions so far before we get into the take a pill kind of thing?
There's nothing in the chat at this time, Lily.
Okay. All right, well, we're moving on. If there are any questions about resources for those things, diet, exercise, mind-body connection, please let me know if you think about them. But we're going to talk about some supplements now that can help you recover faster from cancer and cancer treatments. So we're going to talk about the herbs separately. As I said before, I'm trained as an herbalist, but I also recommend other kinds of supplements to my clients. And so fish and flax oils really help to heal several types of tissue, but particularly nerve tissue, which can be very damaged by chemotherapy and radiation. It's full of omega fatty acids of different kinds. And so, I recommend fish oils, but you can also get flax oils, slightly less spectrum of omegas, but still very healthy. Or you can actually get flax seeds and sort of grind them up and put them on your salad or your yogurt in the morning. That will also be good, and they're kind of nutty. Probiotics, especially immediately after cancer treatment, I highly recommend probiotics. I'm not one of those people that feels like you have to take probiotics every day, because your body would normally, keep its population, right? You don't need to constantly add more, unless you've gone through a traumatic illness or injury. When you have bouts of diarrhea, a lot of them, just come out. When you've had to take antibiotics, they get decimated. If you've had surgery, anesthesia often kills off our beneficial bacteria. So re-establishing a colony with high concentrated probiotics is super helpful. It will immediately start making you feel better, because again, that mind-body connection is real, and a lot of it is centered in the gut. So if you can establish good digestion, you're going to start feeling emotionally better. With probiotics, I highly recommend a supplement that has prebiotics in it, which feed the probiotics. Inulin is one of the prebiotics that is commonly used. That usually comes from chicory root. And it should have at least 10 different strains of probiotics. There are so many different kinds of bacteria that live in and on our bodies, and only taking acidophilus or lactobacillus won't give you the whole spectrum of what you need. So a broad spectrum, at least 10 strains. And I recommend something that's at least 10 billion CFU, which is how much you get when you take a dose. Because some of those critters aren't going to make it. So we want to repopulate. Once you've reestablished your beneficial bacteria, you can just eat fermented foods to kind of maintain it. You don't need to constantly take probiotics, but I would take them for a good month after chemo and radiation. Vitamins to help you rebuild your body again, very important, but it's important to look at how they're sourced. Synthetic vitamins, where you only have to take like one little one a day, those your body doesn't really recognize as food or nutrition, and often they just come right out like you're just wasting your money. Food-based vitamins, unfortunately, are usually a little bigger, and you usually have to take more of them a day, but your body sees that and it's like, oh, that's broccoli, oh, those are beets. And it can extract all of those nutrients from those horse pills. If you can swallow them, I highly recommend it. You can also find different liquid versions of vitamins if you're having problems swallowing, from your treatment. I would also recommend supplementing with extra vitamin D, A, and C at this time. Vitamin D does way more than people initially thought. It's going to help you rebuild your tissues. It's going to help you function, like the brain fog that comes with chemo brain, It's going to help you alleviate those things. Vitamins A and C are going to help you build more tissue, particularly in cells, particularly in the immune system. And when we get to herbs, we have a whole classification of herbs that we call blood builders in Western herbalism. And some of them help stimulate more red blood cell production. Some of them help stimulate more fighter cell production. But we're going to talk about blood builders as a possible supplementation, because they can be super helpful. A lot of the fatigue that comes from cancer and its treatments come from just the big depletion that happens from your blood. So iron and vitamin C and vitamin D are super helpful. And that last little link there, and everybody's going to get the slideshow, so you'll have the link, is a dispensary that I maintain for my clients and for any students that I teach. And this is deeply discounted supplements because they can be super spendy. So as a public service, I go ahead and I list that. It's on my website too. If you go to my website, which the link is at the end, and click on the little full script bug, you can browse the catalog. You can get much cheaper vitamins, probiotics, and you can kind of filter. If you are gluten-free or you keep kosher, you can filter those things to find just the right supplement for you. And it's so much easier than looking at, you know, a gajillion bottles on a shelf somewhere in a Walgreens. Just makes it a lot easier to sort for exactly what you want and then only be shown the results that match that. So I do offer that to folks. Oh, it's Lily Kunning Community Herbalist, LKCH.
Oh,
So when you do fullscript.com/welcome/LKCH, which stands for Lily Kunning Community Herbalist.
thank you.
I didn't want to have to type out that whole thing or have
Sure.
anybody else have to type out that whole thing.
Thank you.
So yeah, we did an acronym. Herbs. So there are whole classifications of herbs. And some of these words at the beginning before the herbs themselves are what herbalists call actions, how they interact in the human body. So immunomodulators are these amazing class of plants and fungi that when you take them, they help regulate your immune system and get it back to a healthy homeostasis. They don't suppress your immune system like the kind of drugs that you take for autoimmune disease. They don't boost your immune system, which is not necessarily recommended if you're in the middle of a cancer treatment. But modulators are safe to take during chemotherapy and radiation, and they help fortify your immune system and balance it. And those include reishi and shiitake, which are both mushrooms, and mistletoe, which I put the picture up because it's festive, coming up on the holidays. Let me get rid of that. Okay. So these immunomodulators can be taken daily as supplementation. I tend to, let's back up a little bit before we talk about specifics. When I talk about taking herb supplementation, my favorite way to take them is either as food or as a tincture. Now, tinctures are liquid extracts of herbs, usually using alcohol and water, usually like a 50-50. And those two solvents extract almost everything from the plant so that you're taking this liquid supplement that has all of those immunomodulators or antioxidants in them. So it's second only to just ingesting the whole plant, right? So I highly recommend taking reishi tincture. And my favorite place to get reishi tincture, I think I have a link on it at the very end, but it's a company that only does mushroom supplements, and it's called Host Defense. And they make the most comprehensive mushroom supplements. They have singles like reishi, but they also have blends. Right now, I'm taking one of their supplements called My Community, which is kind of a pun because, you know, myco. Yeah. Anyway, and it's 17 different mushrooms. And it's just because we've started to enter the cold season and people are staying indoors more and sharing recycled air, I'm just sort of helping my immune system out by taking these mushrooms. And I kind of do that supplementation seasonally. Shiitake also is a mushroom, but you can also eat it. You can find it at the supermarket and cook with it. It's delicious. And you can make a really lovely broth with it that's very savory and umami, and sip that on cold days. Very helpful.
Lily, This is Darlene. We have two questions. The first one
Sure.
is, I've always heard that mistletoe was poisonous,
Mhm.
and that was a question.
Yes, so plants have many properties, and you want to ingest mistletoe under the direction of someone who knows what they're doing. So if you're interested, if you've looked up some studies about what mistletoe can do for you and you're interested, you should definitely reach out to an herbalist to get the proper dosaging. Everything that can heal you can also harm you if done improperly. And so, you know, we want to make sure that you're doing proper dosaging. Because yeah, with mistletoe, it's definitely an immunomodulator. You take it in microdoses.
And then the next question is, can you also refer to herbs for people who are not doing radiation or chemo, but taking things like Arimidex? So yes, so if for people who are, taking like, aromatase inhibitors, but are not currently in chemo or active, can you address herbs for people?
Yeah, absolutely. So immunomodulators would definitely be appropriate in this case. And a lot of these would be. The thing about herbs is that a lot of these are, some of them are remedies like mistletoe, but many of the things here on this list are what we call tonic herbs, which are kind of food grade, and you can take safely on the regular, regardless of what kind of medication you're on. And yeah, so what I'll do is I'll point out what is a remedy, which is something that you should probably get advice taking from an herbalist. And then the rest of them are going to be tonic scale herbs, what the Chinese call supreme herbs, meaning everyone can take them safely in moderation, like as if they were food. So mistletoe is one of those remedy herbs, whereas reishi and shiitake are not. They are tonic herbs and can be taken by people on medication, including, I think I saw Keytruda. Yes, tonic herbs can be taken with that as well. The anti-inflammatories, so while NSAIDs may bother your stomach or liver, like ibuprofen and acetaminophen, turmeric and black pepper isn't going to do that. I actually take every day when I drink my morning coffee, I put in a golden milk, which is turmeric, ginger, black pepper, honey, and then whisked into oat milk. I drink oat milk, but you can use dairy milk, you can use coconut milk. In fact, the fattier the milk is, the better, because turmeric is also lipid soluble. And I drink that every day because, because of my injuries, I have inflammation in my body that I need to keep at bay. So I do turmeric and black pepper as a golden milk. You can also put it in your soups and stews, eat a lot of Indian food. Indian food has a ton of turmeric in it, and they often put black pepper in there too. The combination of those two things makes it more absorbable to the human body, so I always combine them. But they help lower chronic systemic inflammation or acute inflammation if you have been in an accident, better than any NSAID, and much more gentle on your digestive tract. I did list an anti-angiogenesis herb here, Coriolis. So if you're worried about tumors reforming after your initial therapy, taking a remedy dose of Coriolis under the direction of an herbalist is something that you can do. If you've relapsed before and you want to, kind of keep that at bay, it helps tumors from forming. That's what anti-angiogenesis is. So that one you need to take under the direction of an herbalist. But milk thistle and turmeric are both antioxidants that you can take on the regular. Milk thistle, you would take the seed, and it has a really thick seed coat on it. So in order to get the goodness that's inside, you would grind it up before you added it to granola or a smoothie or whatever. But it would also help eliminate some of those free radicals that we don't like hanging out in our bodies. If you're having nausea during treatment or after, a class of herbs that we call carminatives in herbalism would help you. And some of them should be pretty familiar: mint, ginger, chamomile. There's also others. If you don't like any of those flavors, there's a lot. There's fennel. Let's see what else. Cinnamon. I'm a big fan of cinnamon and cardamom together myself. Like, I love that. So those all help with nausea. Lemon balm is also another one if you like lemony flavors. That's a really nice one. Yeah, so that helps with nausea treatment. If you're stressed out, and who isn't, Tulsi, which is also known as holy basil, is a really great herb. And you can see it's also listed under the blood building herbs. They've been doing a lot of really great lab studies about giving people Tulsi extract post chemotherapy and building up their platelet and their red blood cell counts with great success. But back to stress. Passion flower and valerian are both what we call nervine sedatives. So they calm the nervous system and all of those impulses. So they are mildly sedating. So depending on how sensitive you are to things, valerian may, knock you on your butt and be good for helping you to get a good night's sleep, or it might not, and you could probably take it during the day if you're a really revved up, anxious person. It's always good to kind of experiment a little. And I recommend when you're just starting out with herbs, to just get a small bottle of just that one herb tinctured, so that you can experiment and know, okay, this is the herb, this is how it affects me. Because if you get like a formula that has like 6 or 7 herbs in it, you don't necessarily know which one is working for you. If you're getting a sleep formula and it has 6 things, was it the valerian or was it the catnip that helped you? You could just be using catnip and maybe the others don't work as well for you. So that's how I recommend experimenting or consulting with an herbalist who might be able to ask you questions to kind of direct you in the right direction. Then we have a class of herbs called nutritives, which is just like it sounds, right? It's giving you extra vitamins, minerals, and amino acids. Because unfortunately, commercial agriculture has denatured our food a little bit. There's lower mineral content, lower vitamin content in commercially grown food. And so if you start taking herbs that often are growing wild and harvested, you're actually going to get way more, particularly of the minerals, than you would elsewhere. And stinging nettle, I just wrote nettle, but stinging nettle is the type of nettle I'm talking about, is one of the most nutritious herbs on the planet, plant on the planet. It has so many vitamins, minerals, amino acids for you. And there are some really old-timey, wonderful recipes that involve nettle. I've seen, and it's just this hyper-pigmented green because it's so high in chlorophyll. I've seen these beautiful cakes that are just the most gorgeous shade of green from using nettles. There's nettle soup. They're very delicious. And when you're handling nettle fresh or dried, you want to wear gloves because it does sting. But those stings actually are anti-inflammatory. People used to take like a bouquet kind of nettle plants. They grow pretty tall. They would cut them down. And if they had like rheumatoid arthritis or gout, they would whip themselves in that area. And the anti-inflammation action of those little spikes that cause a rash and make it kind of numb would just shrink all that inflammation. It was worth the rash to get it to shrink down. Yeah, and you can take that internally to relieve inflammation as well as, give yourself some nutrition. Stinging nettle is a great plant. It's not a weed. Stop calling it a weed. Raspberry leaf. So we like raspberries. Raspberries are delicious, but the leaf is also very nutritious. It gives you really high vitamin content. It's also a uterine tonic. So if your uterus was involved in your cancer, helping to heal your uterus with raspberry leaf is something that I highly recommend. Catnip is very, very nutritious as well. And I did mention it as an anti-nausea, as well as it's a nervine sedative mildly. For us, it makes us mellow. For cats, it makes them hyper. It's so fun to see like the difference physiologically between species with the same plant. And then blood building herbs. So again, it's a whole class of herbs that we talk about, but they do different things. So some of them help build platelets and red blood cells. Some of them help stimulate the body to create more immune fighting cells. And some of them boost iron levels. So ironweed does exactly what you think it would, right? Tulsi helps with platelets and red blood cells, and stinging nettles, high in iron, high in calcium, builds the blood really, really well. So all of these herbs are things, with the exception of Coriolis and mistletoe, are things that you can take on your own, experiment with, and see what works for you. And there's a couple herbalists here in Columbus. There's me, and then there's also Erica Galantin has Columbus office hours, Galentin. And if you wanted to consult with an herbalist about specific protocols for you, either one of us could do that.
Lily,
There's somebody in the chat?
Yeah,
Okay.
we have somebody in the chat. There's a couple of things in the chat. Earlier, you were talking about the reishi mushrooms.
Yes.
And if you, the question is, could you spell out what you just said about the reishi? It was difficult to understand you because of the mask.
Oh, bummer. Okay.
But the session is being recorded, so people could go back and refer to the recording as well.
Okay. So reishi is an immunomodulator, meaning that it helps your immune system achieve a healthy homeostasis. It doesn't suppress it. It doesn't boost it. It helps the immune system find where it needs to be for you. It is long used in Chinese medicine. It's called the mushroom of immortality for a reason. It's really, really helpful when it comes to during and after cancer treatments, because it's been well studied. There are tons of lab studies that you can look up about reishi. If you go to PubMed, PubMed, it lists just all of the scientific papers, and you can type in reishi and you'll get just a list as long as your arm of studies that have been done. And like I said, with the mushrooms, if you're going to take it as a supplement, and reishi definitely needs to be taken as a supplement, not eaten as a food, because it is hard and woody and won't break down like that. But my favorite brand is Host Defense, because they do a triple extraction and they get everything out of the fruiting bodies, out of the primordia, out of the mycelium, which is all the life stages of a mushroom. They get everything. And they're the most comprehensive mushroom supplements on the market. I love them.
And where would you purchase the supplements for reishi?
Sure. You can go to that link that I put on, where is it? There, that full script link. They sell Host Defense there. You can also just go to hostdefense.com. You'll get a discount if you get it through the full script dispensary. It's 20% off of retail consistently and sometimes more. But yeah, you can also get them from hostdefense.com. And I believe that link is at the end of the slideshow.
And then you had mentioned that the remedy, you really need to have advice from an herbalist, and then the tonic scale herbs were available for anyone. Would also apply to somebody who is taking, and I apologize if I get this medication name incorrect, but Keytruda?
Keytruda, yeah, so anything that is a remedy herb like mistletoe or Coriolis on these lists, I would consult with an herbalist. Anything that's a tonic herb is generally safe for most people, regardless of pharma that they might be on. And yes, you can take any of the tonic herbs, which are all of these outside of Coriolis and mistletoe, and experiment with them safely.
And then we have one last chat at this time. What about sour cherry juice for anti-inflammatories?
Yes, that has anti-inflammatory properties. And if you're into that sort of thing, that is, yeah, you can take that regularly. The thing about juices is that they're not appropriate for everyone, even if they're unsweetened. Diabetics may struggle with using juice rather than like a liquid extract. And people that have GERD may struggle with the acidity levels. So, if it's working for you and that's something that you like to do, then go for it. Yeah.
Great, thank you. That's all we have in the chat at this time.
Okay.
Oh, nope. One just popped up. It's like, what about capsule form instead of juices?
So with capsules, I struggle. I often recommend herbs to people and they're like, oh, I tried Valerian and it didn't work for me. And I'm like, let me guess, you tried those capsules you got from the drugstore? And they're like, yeah, how'd you know? The problem with capsules is that they're full of powdered herb. And powder, so the way that plants contain medicine is within their cell walls. And so when you chop something up super fine, you're degrading those cell walls. So everything starts oxidizing at that point. And we don't know, generally speaking, because there's no regulations about this, we don't know how long that herb has been in a powdered form. So they could have powdered it, put it in capsules, then it goes to a warehouse, it sits around waiting to be ordered by a distributor, then it sits in their warehouse waiting to go to a retail outlet, and then it goes to the retail warehouse until it finally gets to a store. And then once it's on the store shelves, it could be 2 years old, right? We don't know. And unfortunately, best by dates don't tell you much either. Those are not required. There's no standardization around best by dates. So for me, I highly recommend doing liquid extracts because liquid extracts are done at the peak of potency. So if you're, let's say we're doing Valerian, Valerian root is what you use. And people tincture the root after it's been dug up and cleaned, right? So you're getting it at its peak of potency and it's harvested in the fall after the plant dies back and all the vitality is in the root, right? So you're getting the most potent medicine when you take a liquid extract. I can't say with any certainty that you are getting the most potent medicine when you get a capsule. So I don't really recommend them. I know that they're easier. The other thing that concerns me about capsules is part of herbalism is really tasting your remedies and your tonics. Tasting is part of the medicine. You get your body to respond to those constituents because they have a sensation on your tongue and then they go into your digestive tract. It's not just about getting mixed up in your stomach and then having things be extracted and going to different parts the way that pills do. Herbalism is really a whole sensory affair. For example, if people have digestive issues, whether that's with their gallbladder or their pancreas or GERD, I highly recommend people take digestive bitters. Now, bitter is a flavor, right? And we don't just have bitter receptors on our tongues, we have them through the entire digestive tract. They're also in our brain and in our lungs. And the reason we have those is because when we taste bitter, the flavor, it stimulates proper functioning. If we didn't actually taste that bitter remedy and we just took it in a pill form, it's going to be less effective. We don't know everything about how the human body works. We discover things often by accident. tasting is very important. So I'm not a huge fan of capsules. I know that there was a very long answer, but I hope it was a thorough one. Taking things that are definitely more potent and that you can taste, even if the taste is bad, is better. I hope that answers the question. All right. The other thing that I want to stress about cancer recovery is working with a team. And cancer support community is like amazing at helping you assemble your team, supporting caregivers, supporting people going through the process, having programs where people can come together and meet each other and talk about what they're going through is huge. Trying to kick cancer alone sounds horrifying. Like I would never wish that on anyone. So getting help and, signing up for updates and finding out what kind of classes are happening here, what kind of social gatherings, what kind of support groups is huge. And, your team can also be your wellness team, right? So ensure that your doctor knows what kind of therapies that you're pursuing that are outside of their realm of expertise. If you're going to work with an herbalist or you're going to work with an acupuncturist, let them know. Talk to all of those practitioners about, exchanging information so that they can do case management the best for you. Because that's really what it's about, making sure that no batons get dropped as you're, seeking help from many different sources. And working with practitioners that respect each other, I've worked with doctors that have been easy to work with for my clients, and I've worked with doctors who, called me a quack and belittled everything that I recommended, but the client did it anyway. It's difficult, when you're trying to assemble a team. So, if you can, if your insurance will allow you to make sure that you have someone who respects you wanting to do holistic choices and will talk to your practitioners, that's great. And that way you can have true case management, right? The thing that frustrates me the most about the insurance-driven model of medicine is that there's no group of people or one person that actually knows everything that's going on with your wellness. When I get a client in for the first time and they fill out their intake form, and one of the questions is, please list all of the supplementation, herbs, and pharmaceuticals that you are currently taking in detail, like the type, the dosage, how often you take it. And it astounds me because often people are taking 3 drugs for the same condition. And, when I ask them, have you talked to your doctor about this? It never even occurred to them because their doctor's supposed to know that they're on the other 2, right? Like the records don't always follow the people because we don't have a standardized universal system. And so I often will tell people, I think you should talk to your doctor about all of these medicines, present them with what you presented me with, because half of these are causing your symptoms, right? Your side effects. And so we need to figure out which ones are required and which ones aren't anymore. So yeah, holistic case management is huge. So if you can assemble a team that supports you in your goals of getting well, that is the best, and not being alone.
So Lily, we do have some things in the chat in regards to your answer for the capsules. Sean says, great response, thank you. And then we have a question about, you had mentioned your golden milk that you use in your coffee.
Yes.
Somebody was asking for that recipe. If you could share what ingredients you put in your golden milk, please.
Absolutely. So I cheat a little bit and I use Haven Herbs turmeric tea paste, but I will tell you what the recipe is anyway. So you can get it made already from Haven, which is up there. But what we do is we take, I think I'm going to put it in a part recipe. 8 parts turmeric powder, 8.5 parts ginger powder, and 1 part black pepper powder. Finer the better, because you don't want a big chunk of peppercorn. And then I mix that into raw local honey until it forms like a gloopy paste, right? And then we bottle it. And then from the bottle, I go ahead and I get a pan of milk. I usually do 32 ounces at a time, and that way I can keep the golden milk in the fridge all week and pour it into my coffee. So, I take a box of oat milk and I spoon out about 3 tablespoons of the turmeric tea paste, and I put it in the milk and I just whisk it for about 5 minutes until it melts and is assimilated into the oat milk, and it's done. So you can either assemble all of it or get it from Haven, but then it only takes 5 minutes to make a whole bunch of golden milk, or a little bit of golden milk. It takes the same time to make a little or a lot.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. So yeah, some resources for folks. I mentioned Vipassana Meditation, and there's a fantastic article on Tricycle, which is a Buddhist magazine, about this kind of meditation and how it's really great for beginners and maybe how to get started. There's me, Lily Kunning Community Herbalist. That's my website. It has the full script, little bug on the bottom. You can also book an appointment there. You can reach out to me and ask me a question. I'm always here. Haven Herbs is the company that I formulate for. So a lot of over-the-counter kind of herbal things that are good for a lot of people, sort of mass market things. And then of course, Cancer Support Community. They are here and they've been doing a great job for a long time. And I'm happy to be here too. I think that's it. Yep, that's it. Whoop.
Excellent. Thank you, Lily. I did put something in the chat about that. The recording will be eventually on our website, but we're currently updating our website. So it will definitely be available on the YouTube channel of Cancer Support Community Central Ohio. And that will be available within an hour after class, because I'll be able to upload that and put that on. So does anybody have any last questions for Lily while we still have her today? And if you are typing in the chat, or you are welcome to unmute yourself and ask that question directly. We are very thankful for Lily sharing her expertise with us. We will not have a natural living workshop in December. That month is taken off, but I'll be meeting with Lily as soon as class is done to talk about our 2022 schedule. So keep an eye out in our print and our digital magazine for the upcoming classes and what that schedule will be.
Yeah, I wish everybody a great holiday season, because we're not going to see each other until 2022. So Happy New Year and Thanksgiving and winter holidays. Yeah, it's been great.